Sarah Everard was a vibrant young woman, full of life and dreams. At 33, she had her whole life ahead of her, with aspirations and plans for the future. She was walking home, a simple act, something she had done countless times before. It was a normal night, March 3rd, 2021, in Clapham, South London. The air was cool and the streets were dimly lit. She had been visiting a friend. It was a Wednesday, a midweek break from the routine. Around 9 p.m., she started her journey back home. The streets were quiet, almost eerily so. The streets were quiet, with only the occasional car passing by. Lockdown restrictions were in place, making the streets even more deserted than usual. To pass the time and feel a sense of security, she called her boyfriend as she walked. They shared a chat, a laugh, and a promise to talk soon. It was a comforting routine. This was the last known contact anyone had with Sarah. Then, the call ended. Sarah continued her walk, unaware of the shadow falling upon her. This was the last known contact anyone had with Sarah. The call ended, and she continued her walk, oblivious to the danger lurking nearby. Her disappearance sent ripples of worry through her loved ones. They tried to reach her, but there was no response. Those ripples soon turned into a tidal wave of fear. Where was Sarah? The community came together, holding vigils and putting up missing person posters, hoping for her safe return. The hours turned into days, each tick of the clock echoing the growing dread. The days stretched into a nightmare, an endless loop of fear and uncertainty. Sarah's face was plastered all over the news, a haunting reminder of her sudden disappearance. Her name was on everyone's lips, a chilling whisper of a life gone missing, a story that gripped the nation. The police investigation was relentless, a race against time, with every second feeling like an eternity. CCTV footage showed Sarah walking alone, her figure a solitary silhouette against the night. Then a white car, a Vauxhall Astra, appearing in the frame, its headlights cutting through the darkness. The car was linked to a serving Metropolitan Police officer, Wayne Couzens, a shocking twist in the investigation. He became the prime suspect, his demeanor under scrutiny, every word and action analyzed. The revelation sent shockwaves through the nation, a collective gasp of disbelief and horror. A police officer, tasked with protecting the public? The irony was not lost on anyone. The evidence mounted, tightening the noose of suspicion around Couzens, each piece a step closer to the truth. His arrest was a gut punch, a betrayal of trust that left everyone reeling, a stark reminder of the fragility of safety. Wayne Couzens, a husband, a father, a police officer. He was someone who was supposed to protect and serve the community, a figure of trust and authority. But behind this facade, a sinister reality was lurking, or so everyone thought. As the investigation dug deeper, the mask began to slip. The man who wore the uniform was not the protector he pretended to be. Instead, he was a predator hiding in plain sight. A horrifying truth started to emerge. Couzens had used his position of authority, his badge, to kidnap Sarah. He exploited the very trust that his role commanded, turning it into a weapon against the innocent. He had used COVID-19 restrictions to his advantage, falsely arresting Sarah. Under the guise of enforcing lockdown rules, he manipulated the situation to isolate her, making it easier to carry out his heinous plan. He handcuffed her, forcing her into his car. The very tools meant for justice were twisted into instruments of terror. Sarah, unsuspecting and vulnerable, was now at the mercy of a man who had none. He drove her away, her fear echoing in the silence of the night. The journey was long and filled with dread, each passing moment amplifying the horror of her situation. The details of Sarah's final hours were too gruesome to comprehend. In the darkness of the forest, far from any help, she faced unimaginable terror. Couzens had taken her to a remote woodland where he raped and murdered her. The brutality of his actions was beyond belief, a stark contrast to the image he had carefully crafted. The brutality of the crime shocked the nation to its core. Communities came together in grief and outrage, holding vigils and demanding justice. The betrayal by someone in a position of trust made the tragedy even more profound, leaving a scar that would not easily heal. The arrest and subsequent charge of Wayne Couzens sent shockwaves through the nation. A police officer sworn to protect had become the predator. The very institution meant to safeguard the public had harbored a monster within its ranks. The betrayal cut deep. It eroded the public's trust in those meant to serve and protect. The case became a lightning rod, igniting a firestorm of anger and grief. Protests erupted across the country. Women, united in fear and outrage, took to the streets. They demanded justice for Sarah, for themselves, for all women. They wanted to feel safe, to walk the streets without fear. They demanded change. Sarah Everard's murder struck a chord that resonated across the United Kingdom and beyond. It wasn't just a single tragic incident, it was a stark reminder of the vulnerability women face every single day. Women shared their own stories of harassment, assault, and fear. The hashtag #SheWasWalkingHome trended, amplifying the collective grief and outrage. Sarah's case became a symbol of a much larger issue, a societal ill that had been festering in the shadows for far too long. The outpouring of grief and anger in the wake of Sarah's murder was palpable, but it also ignited a spark. Women, tired of living in fear, decided to reclaim the night. They organized marches and vigils, demanding better safety measures and an end to violence against women. The streets echoed with their chants, "Enough is enough. Whose streets? Our streets." She was walking home. Wayne Couzens' trial was a media spectacle, every detail scrutinized, every word dissected. The prosecution presented a mountain of evidence against him. The defense, a feeble attempt to plead diminished responsibility, crumbled under the weight of his horrific actions. The world watched, holding its breath as the jury delivered their verdict, guilty. A collective sigh of relief swept through the courtroom, a small victory in the face of unimaginable loss. Section 8. The System on Trial. While Couzens' conviction brought a sense of closure, it also exposed the systemic failures that allowed his crimes to occur. The police, already under fire for their handling of the initial investigation, faced intense scrutiny. How could one of their own commit such an atrocious act? Why weren't there better safeguards in place? The case became a catalyst for a much-needed conversation about police conduct, accountability, and the prevalence of misogyny within the force. Section 9. Life Behind Bars. On September 30th, 2021, Wayne Couzens was sentenced to a whole life order, meaning he will spend the rest of his days behind bars. The judge condemned his actions, calling them grotesque and depraved. The sentence, while offering a sense of justice, could never truly compensate for the loss of Sarah Everard. She was gone, and the world was left grappling with the horrifying consequences of one man's actions. Section 10. Sarah's Legacy. Sarah Everard's murder left an indelible mark on society. Her name became synonymous with the ongoing fight for women's safety. Her case forced a long-overdue national conversation about the prevalence of violence against women and the urgent need for change.